All right, guys, so the next question I had was one about effects builds. And I'm a little confused as to why that's an issue. I kind of think this is another classic example of people kind of being in their own way and feeling like they need to bleed in order to brag about an accomplishment, and that's just not the case. Once again, guys, I will direct you, as I have in many other videos, to the Vengeance samples, Loop Cloud, plugins like Endless Smile. You can buy any one of those or all of those. And then other things too, Sennheiser sample packs, any sample packs that include effects for transitions in your music. It's just not that complicated, guys, and I think a lot of you are in your own way. Right before a breakdown, basically you can either do a few different things, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel because really most people are not. You can do a kick drum roll, so like a snare drum roll, but with a kick drum, do 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 do, something like that. That same thing, but with a snare drum. A white noise riser, basically just and then same thing as that, but what they usually call like a tonal riser. So it's a tone. It's use any combo of those. Usually you'd probably use 3 of the 4 I just mentioned. So tonal riser and white noise riser, and then you pick either a snare roll or a kick drum roll. That's about it. And then the same thing on the back end as well. So that's going into a breakdown or going into a drop. Once the drop drops, you can have a white noise like down lifter, as I think they call it, relieving the tension. So the white noise downlifter will start with a lot of energy and then fade out to nothing. It's the opposite of an uplifter. So where an uplifter was, this is more like, it's like a balloon losing air. Same thing with tonal, not so much when a drop drops, because I mean you could, it's not like you can't, but like so then the opposite would be for like when the drop drops for tonal would be like high pitch to low pitch, like beep. So you could do that if you wanted to, but watch the tone as it gets lower and lower, because it might interfere with your bass line and your kick drum because you're in the drop, right? Probably for drops more so than tonal, like I said, would be white noise. You could do impact hits. There's a lot of like stuff like that. So when the drop drops, you've got your kick and your bass and your lead and your hi-hats all going off on the one. Also with a white noise downlifter. Also with maybe an impact that might be tonal. So maybe your tonal could be shorter, rather than it being like boo. It could be maybe like boo, something like that. A good thing for a drop is a crash cymbal, just a classic pss, just good crash cymbal to slam in once the drop hits. That's about it, guys. A lot of people say that they have problems with that, but I mean, literally just buy a sample pack, or buy something like Endless Smile, the plugin, and it makes all this for you, basically. And then for a snare roll, I don't really bother making snare rolls anymore. I just buy, a loop or like a sample of a snare drum. Da 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 da. You can take your snares whether it be something you make or it's like a sample that you use, and you can put a pitch bend on it so that the snare lifts up in pitch. So boo, 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 boo. So like the snare drum itself is actually going up in tone, in pitch. Um, that's a great effect to use when you're going up either into a break or into a drop. But then once the drop hits, it's a different ball game. Once the drop hits, it's a crash cymbal, probably a white noise, like static noise downlifter, maybe a tonal hit, but it's short, like pew, something like that. Um, and that's about it, guys. I mean, you don't need 8,000 effects on both ends, lifting up and then dropping down to make it great. In fact, I highly recommend you do not overdo it, and that's why I've only mentioned using like 3 on both sides or so. That's not a hard and fast rule, but I wouldn't get too crazy with using a ton of different effects, because when you're dealing with those areas, there's a lot of energy buildup, especially when the drop drops. You've got a kick that's going to hit on the one. You've probably got a bass line that's going to hit underneath the kick. If it's side chained, maybe not so much, but like you're going to have a lead. You might have a clap that's layered with the kick. You might have other things that hit with the drop, like chords. So you have to remember all that's hitting, plus maybe a vocal. So when you do that on top, when you put on top of all that a crash cymbal, that's another transient at the drop. A static downlifter, that's another transient. Possibly some sort of impact sound, a tonal quick noise, that's another transient. You're having a lot of energy build up right at that drop, and it's not necessarily a good thing. You're going to have to go in there, zoom in on Ableton, and you're going to have to nudge each file a little bit forward and a little bit backwards, so not all that stuff is hitting precisely on the one of the drop. The kick should hit directly on the one, but a lot of this other stuff should be jiggled around and moved a little bit, because all that energy, all those transients are sitting right on top of each other, and they're hitting all at once. So when you go to master that, your limiter's really going to be working very hard to squeeze that, and you don't want that. So like I said, there's 2 different things you can do to prevent that. There's number 1, not overdoing it with a ton of effects. Use what you need, but don't go overboard. And if you need perspective, consult a reference. You should already have that in your sessions anyways. But then aside from that, if you're still having issues, and even if you're not, like, don't wait to see if you're having issues. What I would do is zoom in real close in Ableton and look at like your downlifter. It's right on the one, nudge it. Your cymbal, crash, it's right on the one, nudge it the other way. Your impact, nudge it a little bit the other way. Your maybe your lead, nudge it a little bit the other way. Not so much that it's a noticeable difference that you can really hear it, but more so just so that each transient isn't like right on top of each other like this, but more so like that. Like your kick is here, but like your one effect is here, your other effect is like right there, your crash cymbal is a little bit even further out, like right there, your lead is just a little bit off your kick, like right there. So I'm just saying separate those transients, and that should be fine. So that was kind of a effects and mastering tutorial there, but yeah, guys, just don't overdo it. You don't need to. It isn't necessary. Your mind has painted and filtered and made build-ups and drops way more extravagant than they actually really even are. I know this to be true because I've sat in tears before deleting track after track, because I go to listen to a top tier DJ and how they did it, or how their ghost producer did it, and it's like, this isn't nearly as epic as mine, and why do I have all these troubles? because I made it too epic. I made it stacked up on top of each other to the point where it's ridiculous. And then you go and you consult your reference, and it's like, wow, it's super understated compared to what I originally thought I heard. What you thought you heard is not what you actually have in the track. Your mind, your ears have colored that build up and that drop to be way more than it is. Trust me on that. And if you don't, just go listen to your references versus what you were doing, and you'll see. But yeah, you shouldn't need to overdo it. I'll see you guys in the next video.